Today is a very exciting day when it comes to my 2010 Toyota Tacoma because we got fiberglass, baby. This is a 2010 Toyota Tacoma with a front clip from a 2016, which is why it's got the newer style headlights from Morimoto, a fancy Tier D Pro grille, and just all of this goodness up front. The hood is fiberglass, the fenders are fiberglass, these little grill inserts, fiberglass. And now we finally have the rear fiberglass to match. This is a kit that McNeil offers to convert a second gen to a third gen, so it works with the second gen body lines and the third gen stuff. It's got a nice bulge to it, so it'll cover our rear tires, and of course cutouts for third gen taillights. So I guess the first plan of action is to throw the composite box onto the truck, and then we can start mocking things up. It's really handy that these boxes are made of plastic because you can easily move them on and off by yourself. Now, because of my rear bumper here, I know the bottom quarter of the fiberglass is gonna need to be chopped right off. But for kicks, let's see how it fits. That's gonna look so sick. Right now, it's still sitting really tall over top. So I'm gonna mark it very conservatively on the cut here and then trim up. Because you can always take away material, but adding material back, especially on fiberglass, well, it's possible, but it's not really my thing. I'm gonna start with this, even though in reality, the actual line is gonna be probably higher than the top of the tape line, but I'd rather be safe. Yeah, it needs to come down a mile here. So we've run into our first snag. This is the factory inner structure on the back of the second gen box, and this kind of needs to be over and in the space that it's occupying. So I think I got to cut this guy out, and then we'll figure out how to mount it after. I realized that I was kind of doing this all wrong, trying to fit this on the truck, and it would be so much easier if the box side was just off the truck a bit. We pulled the box just off to the side of the truck here, and with that little bracket cut out of here, which definitely won't work with this fiberglass, everything just whoop, right where it needs to be. And looks good. The fitment is really good, but there is something that I don't love. Look how proud these box sides sit, way up high here above where the factory box line used to be. I'm assuming that's just kind of how third gens are, maybe. They just maybe had taller box side and a taller tailgate. The reason I don't love it is because I gotta figure out how to mount a rooftop tent onto this and not directly to fiberglass, because I feel like that would just destroy it. Hey, Phoenix? But that's not a right now Clinton problem. Right now, we're gonna get a drill and start drilling out all these little marks around the box side and actually get it mounted to the truck.
These taillights I'm installing are from Morimoto. They are the XB LED series, and with some slight modifications, I was able to get these guys to fit perfectly in my second generation box.
Pretty convenient, actually. I was able to use one of the factory taillight bolts here for the third gen taillight. I'll need to drill a hole for the upper. That's not bad. In fact, most of this fiberglass went on pretty easy so far. And now it's all mocked up, we're gonna slide the box back over to where it belongs and see how much exactly we gotta trim out of it. Something I've been thinking about while installing this that kind of bugs me is the fact that the top here is raised like over an inch from like its factory height. And the reason that's an issue is because imagine putting a rooftop tent rack on this. It's just bolting to fiberglass that is floating. And that just simply isn't gonna work. But I think I've come up with a solution. 2x4s. Hear me out. A couple years ago, I was working on a first-gen Toyota pickup that had a full fiberglass bed, and the entirety of the fiberglass bed was reinforced with wood. I think there is probably a couple reasons for that. I'm sure fiberglass adheres to wood texture a lot better than it does, like, if you were to reinforce it with steel. 2, wood is lighter than steel, and 3, fiberglass kind of cracks if it's mounted too rigidly. And when I went inside the wheel well and measured the void in between the top of the box and the inside of the bedside rail, let's call it, I realized that it's 1.5 inches, which is exactly the height of a 2x4. And that got me thinking, this top rail is like the exact width of a 2x4 too. It would probably fit in here perfectly. So now we're pulling the box side back off to see if we can mock up a 2x4 in that void. So I am gonna have to come in and shape this corner a little bit so that it sneaks up and in there, just because of the shape of the fiberglass. You can kind of see the idea here. There it is, 2x4 installed. Now we get to see how well or how well it doesn't fit back on here. I think that did the trick. Turns out the 2x4 actually did the trick. It looks good. It's more rigid up top here, so I can more comfortably mount a rooftop tent. I'll probably use a much wider base than what I had before to kind of spread the load out a lot more. Heck yeah, though. This is one side complete. And the easy side, I should mention. So I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow and we will finish off the other side. We are back, another day, another bedside. So I started off by pulling the bedside we already finished completely off so that I could pull the whole bed off of this side to mock up the fiberglass. Something tricky that we're gonna have to deal with on this side is the filler neck. I don't know if it's going to reach the same location or if I need to modify it or what. We'll figure that out. So I picked up a couple more ingredients here for the fuel neck. One being my factory fuel neck holder. I forgot to grab this before I gave my box sides away. To be honest, it doesn't really fit. See a big gap there, gap there. I think if I trim it a bit, I can make it work, but you'll always see the gaps. So maybe you're supposed to use a 3rd gen one. This is the one I got, so this is the one I'm gonna use. Also looking in here, you can see that I physically cut the fuel neck off. I used pipe cutters instead of a hacksaw because I didn't want to send a bunch of metal shavings down into my tank. And of course I didn't want to use a grinder because we don't want to throw sparks down there either and make big boom. But now with it cut, we got some fuel line here that'll sleeve right over top and we can extend it. Now that the box sides are on, it's time to reinstall the tailgate. Ideally, I would use a 3rd gen tailgate. As you may have guessed, I don't have a 3rd gen tailgate. So we're gonna see how it looks with a 2nd gen tailgate for now. This gap is kind of crap. I think we'll run this tailgate for now. Sure, why not?
And of course, I had to mess with the tail light wiring itself because the second to third gen stuff just isn't plug and play. So I got out the soldering iron and cut up our brand new Morimoto taillight harness, but it's worth it.
I didn't even know that these were going to be sequential taillights, but now for the most satisfying part. Oh, those look so good. I think I just came up with a solution for my rooftop tent mount back here, and that is a bed cage. I bent this hoop that is resting up there for my pickup, but I accidentally made it too wide. But it turns out it works perfectly for the cab of this truck. So essentially this hoop is going to go over around the cab, kick in on the bed sides, and mount with some through plates right here on the bed. There'll be a crossbar going from one side of the hoop to the other, with a couple more bars coming over here, tethering in the back, and then on that, I can mount a tent. That way I don't even have to worry about the rooftop tent adding some extra stresses and potentially destroying my new bedside. So now that I know that this bar fits the profile of the roof, let's pull it off, put a couple more bends in it, and try to mock that guy up. So something like this is kind of what I'm thinking. Now, it's not supposed to be a roll bar. At the end of the day, it's getting mounted through the plastic bed, so it'll never really add much for rollover support. It's more or less a headache rack that's going to double as like a bed cage that can hold the rooftop tent. I was originally going to do two bends out, over, and then back, but I screwed it up because the die for my bender is really big and it just didn't look good. So I ended up cutting off one of the bends and welding in a straight piece, and this is how we land. So there is going to be another bar straight up across here above that strap that'll send the other tubes back towards the camera. And thinking about how to tie it in on this side, I've got a pretty good idea. I think I'm going to send some tubes up that will double as bed stiffeners that will send it back and connect to that crossbar back there. So next on the agenda, we're going to go into the computer and draw up the plates that mount the tube to the box. Well, that's it. That's about all the material and time and motivation I have in this week's episode. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I've gotten sick through the course of this video, and well, this is all we're gonna get done. But overall, a huge success. We got fiberglass bedsides mounted, we got the taillights on, we got the taillights wired. This truck looks sick. We got the starting of a bed cage to mount the rooftop tent. I think to make this section flow with the truck a bit better, I'm going to put another piece of tube from here down to the bedsides and have a rail going over the top of the bedsides that will do the same thing over here. Not supporting any weight. That's what the main bars are for. More or less just for looks. Anyways, guys, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, and hey, consider subscribing. We upload weekly Toyota building, wheeling, and off-roading content. Anyways, we'll catch you next week. Peace.